this is, what you guys don't know is that the group of us have not been all together for months until we just, stood outside right there. So like, I'm like so emotional right now because, I've missed these guys so much, and I luckily got to spend some time with Zoe and Dave last week, but everybody else I haven't been around, and it's just an amazing moment for us, I think.
We arrested these 5 on Xandar. Check out the rap sheets.
Drax, aka the Destroyer. Since his wife and family were killed, he's been on a rampage across the galaxy in his search for vengeance. Gamora, soldier, assassin, wanted on over a dozen counts of murder. Rocket, wanted on over 50 charges of vehicular theft and escape from lockup.
What the hell?
Groot has been traveling recently as Rocket's personal houseplant / muscle.
Peter Jason Quill. He's also known as Star-Lord.
Who calls him that?
Himself, mostly. He's wanted largely on charges of minor assault, public intoxication, and fraud.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know how this machine worked.
For me, I think I would have had a harder time trying to fit into the regular, Marvel scheme of things. And this gave me a chance to take what I loved about Marvel movies and Marvel comics and create a whole new universe, which is really, what has been the most exciting thing for me, in my entire professional career. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with the different planets in the solar system. And I used to create for every single planet a different alien race with a certain kind of pet and a certain kind of house and a certain kind of, water system and everything. And I would draw these pictures, and I had hundreds of these pictures and had them in a box. And really, to me, this is like going back to that childhood box and creating this, fun universe.
My name is Peter Quill. There's one other name you might know me by. Star-Lord.
Who?
Well, Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw. Guys.
Kind of the whole process for me on this one was just trusting James, really, and taking big swings and sometimes falling flat on my face, and just like the big challenge for me was just trying to ignore the embarrassment of being an actor. It's a pretty embarrassing thing to do. You got people pointing cameras at you and hundreds of people watching you as you're trying to be great, and often, almost every time, you're not. And then there's one moment where you are, and the editor will dig through all the shit to find it and then put it in the movie. So the challenge is not like finding the attitude. It's really just like being open and willing to go for it and try different things and having a director that you can trust. And so the attitude is not something that I intended or created. It's something James intended and created by getting me to try different things, and so that's really what that was about.
Oh, well, you wow. You created that attitude. That's what you.
Fuck you,
took it there.
How did you do that? How did you do that?
It's a gift. No, I don't know. I'm gonna get better at this. I've never done this that much, so acting is something I've learned how to do through trial and error, and I'm sure press conferences will be the same thing.
We had screen tested at least 20 people. Actually, screen tested at least 20 people of all, big stars, no names, looking for the right person, because I really wanted somebody who could embody this character and take it beyond what was on the page, in the same way Robert Downey Jr. did for Iron Man, essentially. And nobody blew me away. Plenty of people were really good. Many of the people were great, but nobody blew me away. And Sarah Finn, our casting director, really deserves the credit for Chris in a lot of ways, because she kept putting his picture in front of me and saying, what about this guy? Why don't you meet with him? And I was like, the chubby guy from Parks and Rec? You're stupid, And she kept doing it, and finally she really, I don't remember her ever agreeing to see Chris. I just remember her saying, okay, and after this guy, Chris Pratt's here, and I was like, and I was a little mad. I was like, I thought I didn't want to see him, but, and then Chris came in, and, he started to read, and this is 100% true, that within 20 seconds, I was like, holy shit, that's the guy, that's who we've been looking for. He had this thing that was himself, and sometimes a role and a person are meant for each other, and that's what I felt this was. And I turned around, and it was Sarah Finn who was sitting behind me, and I'm like, he's the guy. And I'm like, chubby or not, if he's chubby, the world's gonna have to be ready for the first chubby superhero, because he's still gonna be better than all the other people we had.
We have to stop Ronan.
How?
I have a plan.
You've got a plan.
Yes.
First of all, you're copying me from when I said I had a plan.
No, I'm not. People say that all the time. It's not that unique of a thing to say.
Secondly, I don't even believe you have a plan.
I have part of a plan.
What percentage of a plan do you have?
You don't get to ask questions after the nonsense you pulled on Nowhere.
I just saved Quill.
We've already established that you destroying the ship that I'm on is not saving me.
When did we establish?
Like 3 seconds ago.
No, I wasn't listening. I was thinking of something else.
Oh.
She's right. You don't get an opinion. What percentage?
I don't know. 12%.
12%?
That's a fake laugh.
It's real.
Totally fake.
That is the most real, authentic, hysterical laugh of my entire life, because that is not a plan.
It's barely a concept.
You're taking their side?
I am Groot.
So what? It's better than 11%. What the hell does that have to do with anything?
Thank you, Groot. Thank you. See? Groot's the only one of you who has a clue.
Neytiri grew up in a household where she was loved and she was held as a child. Gamora was taken, sort of like the Lost Boys of the Sudan. She was taken from her village, from her planet, and forced into a life of violence and crime. So there's this pain that follows her wherever she goes, but there's this last hope that she has that she can possibly get away. So I did try to find some similarities between them, but I don't think they would play together in a playground. Gamora's a hustler. Neytiri doesn't even know how to lie.
I guess this whole thing started for me with a kind of a social media wave that was adamant about me doing something with Marvel. And there wasn't really a 6-month window to do a character at Marvel. So when Kevin Feige called me and said that him and James were talking about me playing a role, I had no idea what role it would be. And they sent over a book of conceptual art. And I went into my living room with my kids, and I opened up the book, and I asked the kids what character they thought they wanted Daddy to play. And they all pointed at the tree. And I knew that was a good sign.
I didn't look at it so much as, the Marvel thing. I was, very familiar with Marvel, obviously. And, of course, I realized they had a winning formula and the movies were very well done. But I really looked at it as something new and completely on its own because it was just original and fresh. And also I looked at it from strictly the standpoint of Drax. Because once I realized who Drax was and how much of an emotional roller coaster his character would be, I just kind of fell in love.
How did I go about it? James kind of like made me feel like I could explore it. I got there and I worked with 4 actors. 2 of them weren't there. And so I had a lot of fun with Chris and Zoe, and what I do remember was like I felt like I could explore the character in every way I would have wanted to. And James was very supportive to taking chances and trying different things. And I felt like an animal that grows up in a cage. And suddenly you open the door and he comes out and he's tentative to take chances. And James was very, very great, very nice to me to allow me to go. And so at the end I was like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. It was a great feeling, yeah.
Benicio was Benicio knows this. He's one of my favorite actors in the world, and so I was so excited when he did this. But one of my favorite moments on the whole movie is when Benicio came into my office when you were first visiting for your fitting, and you sat down with me, and we were talking about the character and how we saw the character and where we were coming from. And you go to me and you go, you know, when I think about it, I think about when I was a little kid, I was the first kid in my neighborhood to have a pet alligator. And I was like, oh, this guy's my friend for life. This is the greatest thing I've ever heard.
It would be wild to actually see my script, because I don't think anyone has seen my script. It was on the left-hand side of the page, it said, I am Groot. And then on the right-hand side of the page, it could be a whole paragraph about what I am Groot meant. So when I walked into that situation and I saw somebody that cared so much about every little nuance of that character, it was so refreshing for somebody that didn't think that being a perfectionist was a bad thing. It was so refreshing. And unfortunately now in Hollywood, there are those directors that have some contempt for actors. We've all experienced it in one way or another. To have a director that loves his actors is something that you can see in the film, the fruits of that labor. You can see that translated in the film. And when you watch this movie, you can see a director who loves his actors, and it shines through the movie in my mind.
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome.
Ain't no thing like me except me.
Who are you?
We're the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Who?
Forget it.
Guardians of the Galaxy in theaters August 1st.